Storylines from the Raiders and the NFL. It's your time to sound off and shout about the day's highs and lows. Call now, 702-889-5978. Here's Scott Goldbranson and your host, Tony Cordasco.
The PG, your go-to football postgame show, is on the air. We come to you live from the studios of CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. in Las Vegas. The trading deadline looms this Tuesday afternoon. It's never been this active. We will talk about that. We will give you scores. We will talk about everything going on in the National Football League. Our call-in number, 702-889-5978. And we are live exclusively today on the radio.com app. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook and on Twitter on the CBS 1140 AM Twitter account. Scott Goldbranson is here. Tony Valdez is our engineer. And, Scott, it is time to give the rundown of today's scoring action in the National Football League.
It is. Let's take a look at games in action right now, and this is one we'll go into in the first segment here, but not good news for Raider Nation as the Colts are about to put away the Raiders. Score currently 42-28 with a minute 46 left in the fourth. On to Phoenix, where the 1-6 Cardinals battle the 1-6 49ers. This was not a fun game, folks. The 49ers on top 15-10 late in the game. Cardinals have the ball and are driving. Also, the Rams, they're on top, squeaking by right now against the Packers, 23-20. That's been an incredibly entertaining game. 3rd and 7 at the Green Bay 27 for the Rams, who are looking to go in and close out that one for the top team in the NFL at 7-0, the LA Rams. On to other scores from earlier today. It was the Steelers 33, Browns 18. Is the Hugh Jackson era over in Cleveland? We'll see later today. Also, the Redskins, with a gutty performance, moved to 5-2 with a 20-13 win over the Giants. It was the Chiefs and the Pat Mahomes show, the high-flying Pat Mahomes show. They downed the rival Broncos 30-23 in Kansas City to move to 7-1 on the season. It was the Seahawks 28, the Lions 14. In a shootout, the Bengals beat the Buccaneers 37-34, overcoming Fitzmagic. We'll talk about that. Chicago Bears 24, New York Jets 10. It was the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton 36. The Baltimore Ravens 21. The Jacksonville Jaguars go all the way to London to lose yet again. This time to the the reigning world champion Philadelphia Eagles 24-18. And that's your update. You are now in the PG, and you have all your scores.
So the post-Amari Cooper era began in Oakland today, and not successfully for the Raiders. Final score just in. It's just gone final. The Colts 42 and Oakland 28. Jack Doyle scores the go-ahead touchdown on a pass from Andrew Luck. Then on the ensuing play, next series, Doug Martin fumbles the football. The Colts recover at the 27. With 5:16 to go in the game, Darius Leonard punching the football out, and Marlon Mack caps things off, rushes for a 2-yard touchdown, his second of the day. That puts the game away 42-28. So Scott Goldbranson, 21-0 was the score in favor of the Colts in what? The fourth quarter.
The fourth quarter.
Where the Raiders continuously fall apart. And now on the season, the Raiders minus 51 in the fourth quarter of play.
Unbelievable. And, you know, it's too bad because if you look at the Raiders in this game, some real bright spots, especially, well, in the first three quarters, that is. Offensive line played much, much better, gave Derek time to pass. Derek Carr also looked better, stepping into the pocket. He was good in the play action. Doug Martin looked good up until the fumble. He was creating some action there. So the Raiders looked like they had some life. Defense, another story. We'll talk about that in a minute. But from an offensive standpoint, you felt like this team was hitting some stride finally. And after the debacle that was London against the Seahawks, it looked okay. But again, we see, as bad teams do, Tony, they cannot finish out a game in the fourth quarter.
And this did not seem like a tank job for the Raiders. It appeared as though they tried to win the football game. They did play. They played hard. Again, very effective. Derek Carr, we've talked about this so many times. Derek Carr is at his most effective when he runs the football off of play action, when he can throw the ball off of play action. And that's where his touchdowns and his big plays came from today.
No doubt. And he outperformed Andrew Luck today. I mean, if you look at the stats, I know the game results are different, but he didn't make big mistakes today. He did not throw a pick today, threw 3 interceptions, finishes the game with 136 passer rating, 21 of 28. He hit his first 10 passes in a row as well, Tony. So that was a bright spot. But again, the defense, it just wasn't there. They couldn't make stops. If you look at the time of possession, which I think is a big deal in this game because the Raiders just didn't have any opportunities. And when you fumble away an opportunity also with 5 minutes left where you can actually go down and tie the game, that kills you. But 36 minutes to 23 minutes on time of possession, look, you got to do better than that on defense, and they're just not able to do it.
On a 4th and goal situation, Derek Carr in the game on a quarterback sneak. And originally it was called no touchdown, but it was challenged forward progress. The football went over the goal line. And for the first time in 137 career carries, first time Derek Carr with a rushing touchdown. Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, it took a while, but he also threw 3 touchdowns today. And I thought he did a good job in the ball distribution with Cook, Seth Roberts, and a third touchdown to LaFell. His first touchdown with the Raiders. He did a great job in just mixing up, pass and run. When he checked off, I think he did very well. And then finding different receivers for touchdowns. Offensively, I don't really have a problem with the Raiders today.
No, I don't. I mean, again, you had the one big turnover at the end, and that really, if you had a chance,
and you have to give Darius Leonard all the credit in the world.
He hammered the ball right out of Doug Martin's hands.
He just did the little tomahawk chop,
yes,
and knocked the football out.
Well, and as the commentators on television said, he didn't even try to tackle him. He just went right after the ball, which is what you do late in the game. But I was impressed with the offense. I thought the offense did really, really well, not only statistically, but the rhythm that they had, the play calling, I thought was really good, well done this time. Also, I want to give a call out. Martavis Bryant did an amazing job today of being the decoy, of setting up the fakes, of blocking downfield several times. And so that tells me that
he took over Cooper's role,
yeah,
do you think?
Yeah.
Essentially?
I think so. But at the same time, what ended up happening was you saw LaFell open up. The only disappointment I had with offense, really, overall, was that I don't know what happened to Marcel Aitman. He didn't see the field. I got to see how many snaps he had. But he really wasn't out there.
I never saw him on the field. Did you see him out there?
I didn't see him,
yeah.
unless we missed him.
They just brought him off of the practice squad to fill the vacated spot that Amari Cooper left. First quarter, I think, was telling. And you talk about the defense. This is when they were on the field too long, and they also were getting gashed repeatedly.
Yeah.
So in the first quarter, the Raiders had the ball. They had possession for all of 1 minute. To 14 minutes for the Colts. And you just can't win games when you don't have the football. And then I think from that point forward, they finally got into a rhythm. They got into a flow in the second quarter. It's like, okay, they're staying close. They're tied, heading into the fourth quarter. And then what happens? The same thing that has typically happened this season for the Raiders. They give up a lead, or the floodgates open. Why can't this team sustain 4 quarters of football?
I have one word for you. Talent or lack thereof.
Lack of talent.
I think that's it. I think they can't close games.
Words. Okay. Who's counting?
I think they can't close games because they just don't have the players on defense and the depth. I mean, let's face it, in the National Football League, you have to have depth to be able to close out games, guys that can spell when folks get gassed and stuff. And they're just not able to do it. And you're right about the time of possession. 20 almost 21 minutes, the Colts had it in the first half to the 9 for the Raiders. So it started early, and they never caught up. It just didn't work out that way. And, again, if I'm a Raiders fan, of course you're disappointed that they lost, okay? But there were some bright spots. But certainly the holes that exist on this team, especially on the defense today, were front and center.
I had to tweet out that once again from the 1 yard line, Marshawn Lynch does not get the call. Today it was actually Derek Carr, and Lynch had successful surgery this week. Do we ever see him back in a Raider uniform?
No. Matt Gutierrez and I talked about that going back a couple weeks. I don't think so. Not that I wouldn't like to see him there. I love Marshawn Lynch. I do think Marshawn Lynch, I know some people don't. I think he's a Hall of Famer. But he makes that team better. If I'm him, you're in the middle of a rebuilding era. He doesn't know what kind of line he's going to come back to. And at this point, you don't have a chance to get a ring. So why would you do it? Unless he just wants to come back and play. And toss in the fact, Tony, that they might not play in Oakland next year. So I just don't see it happening.
Now, you were telling me before the show that today on Silver and Black Today, you were talking a lot about this Colts offense and the fact that their offensive line has really gelled with a couple of first-round draft choices. And we saw them the way that they could pass protect for Andrew Luck, and then also, the fact that they were run blocking very, very well. And in fact, Marlon Mack had a 100-yard rushing day, now back-to-back weeks with 100-yard rushing performances, and that's for the first time since Joseph Adai did it back in 2007. And this offensive line for the Colts, they are much better than a 3-win team.
No, they are, and I said it to you during the game as we were watching it here in the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, and that is, if I'm rebuilding a team, which the Colts are, starting with that offensive line is very smart. Stephen Holder was on our show earlier today, said 21% is the pressures that they put on Andrew Luck. Before that, the lowest the offensive line had for the Colts in Andrew Luck's career was 32%. So that shows you how good that offensive line this year is in Indy.
A much more entertaining game than anticipated. We will talk much, much more about the Oakland Raiders, the situation in Oakland. Is it a fire sale or what? And plus, we'll recap the rest of the day's action on the PG, CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
CBS Sports Radio. The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
And the PG is back exclusively on radio.com. And if you don't have the app, you can't be listening. You can't be tuning in.
Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you. Exactly. Hey, do we have some afternoon scoring updates here? All the games final yet or no?
No, all the games are not final, but we have a shocker so far. Green Bay has come back and now leads the LA Rams 27-26. Still a lot of time left, 7:41 in the fourth quarter. The Rams have the ball. Also, San Francisco holding on to the 15-10 lead. They've now hit the 2-minute warning mark down in the spaceship down in Phoenix in Glendale. Cardinals are losing again to the 49ers 15-10. That's an update on your scores.
Such an exciting offensive juggernaut sort of a day. And let's talk about that betting line, first of all, on the marquee game of the day. So the Rams opened up -10 as a 10-point favorite, and the line came down. The last I saw was around 7.5. I think they were favored by 7.5 late as people were going to the windows, and people could not bet enough money on the Green Bay Packers. And we'll talk about the game more in depth in a little while once it goes final. But, I mean, that was one of the biggest, most heavily bet games of the day. And who would have thought that all of the bookmakers in the city would need the Rams to win today?
Yeah.
Because everyone's been backing them so much. But, no one wants to give Aaron Rodgers and now a healthy Green Bay Packer team that many points.
Well, that's what I was worried about too. Was and I'll be honest, I took the Rams, but I was worried about the backdoor cover because I think of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's so good. We were watching the game, Tony, in here as well, and he's just so smooth. He's so even keeled. And he'll show emotion. Don't get me wrong, but under pressure, it doesn't matter. And even when he throws a pass that requires an extensive amount of skill, or he's breaking down a coverage and he needs to find a route or to check down, he does it so effortlessly. It's amazing. It really is. And so anytime you have a guy like that and you're getting and you have that big of a spread, it's a dangerous thing, and the books know what they're doing. I mean, that's why they're in business.
I would have to say today, just based on what we saw off of TV and what people were tweeting out, about 75% of the crowd in Los Angeles were cheeseheads.
Yes, that surprised me.
Yeah, that was really surprising, and I didn't realize it until the first touchdown, the first score of the day by the Packers, and it was this loud roar on the TV.
Yes.
I was like, I know that their fan base, all Wisconsinites, travel because no one wants to stay in Wisconsin. Just kidding. Everyone travels, right? All of the Badger fans,
oh yeah,
all of the Packer fans, they travel, and they travel very well. And so, but I never saw this. I couldn't see this coming.
No, and I actually tweeted at our Entercom VP here, Dan Kearney, who's the biggest Rams fan in the world.
And the biggest Dodgers fan.
So he's going to have a long day. But I tweeted at him, I said, it looks like a Charger game because it looks like there's more visiting fans in an LA stadium than there is for the Rams, which was shocking because the Rams are doing so well. And the Rams now with 7.5 minutes, they trail by 1. They got the ball, so we'll see. But, man, the Green Bay Packers defense has been just unbelievably phenomenal. But the Green Bay crowd that has engulfed the Coliseum in Los Angeles.
Is the Coliseum sold out? Is it sold out today?
It looks pretty dang close.
I was reading as well today that parking anywhere in the vicinity of the Coliseum costs you $100. $100 to park around the Coliseum today.
$100 to park in Watts.
So, yeah, you can park. Yeah. Well, $100 plus you have to also pay for your 2 hubcaps.
Yes, pay for your hubcaps and
yes,
absolutely.
So the post-Amari Cooper era today, off to a start in Oakland, and just curious what the fans' reaction was there.
Yeah, I would love to know. Give us a call, 702-889-5978. But it was interesting, though, that I thought that the offense, and you can't say this is because of Amari Cooper, but the offense just functioned better. The receivers, the ball was spread around a little more evenly from Derek Carr. You had Brandon LaFell. You had Seth Roberts, of course, with the touchdowns. And so, to me, whatever the subtraction was, there was some sort of addition. The team just seemed to be, and that might happen, right? You trade a popular player, you trade a number one draft pick or first round draft pick, and suddenly the guys come together a little more. Maybe it just bonds you because you don't know who's next, and so you want, if you like playing in Oakland and with the Raiders, you want to play well, and I think maybe that played into how well they did today.
So the Raiders now have 3 first-round draft picks coming up for 2019, and it's going to get real interesting. And if they keep tanking, not tanking, is that a hashtag? Sorry, not sorry. Tanking, not tanking. If they continue to lose games, they get another top pick, and they could possibly get 4 first-round selections here in the upcoming draft, a draft that is full of a lot of talent. I'm just curious what people think. Are they headed in the right direction by getting rid of someone like Cooper? How old's Cooper, 24?
Yeah.
Is he 24 years old?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just such a young guy with a ton of upside. And in the right offense, he could really prosper. He could blossom. He could blossom if they utilize him in the right manner. Dak Prescott in Dallas, we've been watching him, and all he wants to do of late is just run the football.
Right.
He's like a guy that just wants to run the ball. He wasn't even giving his receivers any chance of getting open, going through progressions. He would just take a snap and run. But Cooper had required so much attention when he was with the Oakland Raiders that if he has that same role in Dallas, no, he's not going to grow. He's not going to blossom. But if they put some good receivers around him, and if they utilize him in the right manner, he still has a ton of upside, a 2-time Pro Bowler.
I think so, and I think this might be a case, really, of a change that's both good for both sides, right? So Amari Cooper is going to go down, feel like he's got a fresh start with a quarterback who needs a number one receiver really badly, and so he gets to go down there and start over, and leave the dysfunction that's been the Raiders, and then the Raiders get the draft pick and they can move on, and I think when you look at that fact that they might and most likely. They'll definitely have 1 pick in the top 5, and then they might have 2 within the top 10, with another one later in the first round. As long as you don't miss on those picks, I mean, you're never going to make up for the loss of Khalil Mack and all that, but you're going to get good value. You're going to get an Ed Oliver, hopefully, and the opportunity maybe get another quarterback if you feel you need to, as well as a wide receiver and some other defensive help.
So the Raiders today perhaps showcasing some players like a Garyon Conley, like a Carl Joseph perhaps. Assembly's name was out there, thrown out there today. Do you think that there's going to be any more trades before the Tuesday deadline?
I would like to think that they would. I think if they could move, Bruce Irvin was invisible today, which doesn't help his trade value.
You want him to play well if you're showcasing him.
Right.
And I thought that the timing is good because, yes, if you have a bye week, it's not going to help you much. But for the Raiders, to their advantage, they had the bye week. They come out of the bye week, and they play a game today. And for them, they could get players out there, more film on those players. People were watching, a lot of the different players. Cornerbacks are much in demand in the league. So that could be something where you could maybe perhaps shop a Garyon Conley.
Yeah, no, exactly. Although I'd like to see them held on to Conley. He played well today, actually. And I think if you can move Bruce Irvin, the Carl Joseph, they seem to be ready to move on from him as well. If you can get value there, great. It's just, are you going to get value? What kind of value are you going to get?
Is this Packer game going to end? Aaron Donald with just a sack, and he doesn't fall on anyone. He just picks up and throws down Aaron Rodgers like a sack of potatoes. I mean,
it's a great game.
I think it's going to end on a fake punt because today there were some fake punts
and some fake
trickery,
punts
things of that nature. But yeah, if there could be something here late in the game, and I think with 5:20 to go, the Rams are going to take over in excellent field position following a really bad punt by the Packers.
Terrible.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Out today for the Raiders, Rashawn Melvin was out. Reggie Nelson was out today for the Raiders.
Yeah, inactive. I think the trade deadline will be interesting. I don't think Derek Carr's trading. I don't think Conley's going to be traded. But Bruce Irvin, I mean, if they can get a low draft pick for him, I think they'll take it, whatever they can get. I think he's ready to move on, too, after Mack was traded. It just has not worked out this year for him. He's had some moments, but he's also had some negative moments. And we'll see what the Raiders could do. They need to get as many picks as they can, take those first-round picks, get good players, and then you have a bunch of other future draft picks that you could maybe trade and get some. They don't have a second-round draft pick this year because they traded to Chicago with Khalil Mack. So I think if they can get a second-round pick and really bulk up in the draft this year, and then you'll have to get some caretaker free agents while you rebuild.
Yeah, and I saw this stat today. This is another reason why you'd have to believe the Raiders are going to have to, somewhere down the line, even if they stay with Carr, they need a game breaker. I think it's one touchdown outside of the red zone all season long, and that is the worst in the National Football League. Hey, stay tuned. We've got much more on the way. We'll recap all of today's action, and we'll bring you up to date on the late games around the National Football League. Stay tuned to the PG. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
At this station.
CBS Sports
Sports Radio.
The PG on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM. Your live, local NFL post-game experience. Call now and let Raiders Nation hear your Sunday best. 702-889-5978.
It's also your electronic EDM dance party.
Oots, oots, oots.
The PG, welcome back. And a couple of games still in progress, right, in the afternoon.
Yes, sir. And just now, down in Phoenix, the Valley of the Sun, the Cardinals have taken the lead over the 49ers 18-15 thanks to a God, where's the scoring? I can't find the scoring now.
Thanks
what
to
happened?
something.
Yeah, that
thanks
happened.
to a score.
So
thanks to a score.
It was a score. It was a 9-yard pass from Josh Rosen to some unknown receiver named Larry Fitzgerald.
So that's his second touchdown catch of the day.
Yes. So now the Cardinals, again, 18-15, 10 seconds left. Last-ditch effort by San Francisco on the Arizona 45. So we'll see. I'm sure it is a Hail Mary. We'll update you as soon as the final result comes in. You're up to date on the PGLV.
Not really, because the Rams, Greg Zuerlein just kicks a field goal. And with 2:05 to go, the Rams leading the Packers 29-27. You know, every once in a while, you will watch a game that you get so into and you go, I really, really love football. But then the following week, you'll lose like a two-teamer, and you go, God, why am I watching football? Why am I with it? But this is one of those games, though, that kind of brings you back into the fold,
It does.
you know?
Fantastic game.
Yeah, it sure is. There was a game in London today, the Eagles and the Jaguars. Eagles win it 24-18. You know, Scott and I have skipped out on a $40 dinner bill, but never a $40,000 bill.
Yeah. I think we're still wanted in, what is it, Ames, Iowa?
Ames, Iowa.
Yeah.
Yes, it
No,
is. No. It was Ankeny, Iowa.
Ankeny.
Right down
College
the street.
town.
Yeah, that little, outside. No, it wasn't us. It wasn't us.
No, it was somebody else.
Yeah, but so anyway, so that's what happened, right?
Yep.
A $40,000 tab, and 5 of the Jaguars or so
Arrested.
ducked out on the bill.
Yeah.
And then they got into a fight with the security guard. They said, hey, we're in England. We're not supposed to pay. But everyone stood for God Save the Queen today. You know, they put that in the ESPN recap.
I saw that.
I just wanted to let you know.
That's good.
Okay, so last week, the Eagles blowing a 17-0 lead in their loss to the Panthers. Today, they were able to hang on. Carson Wentz, 3 touchdown passes to 3 different players. Wendell Smallwood, that was my favorite play of the day, a little screen play, and then he took it for 32 yards. And then a shaky start for Wentz today. He fumbled on a sack, and then that led to a Jaguars 51-yard Josh Lambo field goal. And then he was also intercepted by Kalen Ramsey on the next possession, which halted an 8-play drive in the end zone. But up and down, the Eagles still prevail, and that was a big win for Philadelphia in that game.
Yeah, no, it was. And you talked about, Tony, that drive in the third quarter, that the 32-yard Wendell Smallwood screen pass. That was huge because after that, they did not get – I mean, the Jacksonville just could not score. I mean, they couldn't score. They weren't scoring before that. And that's the thing. The Jacksonville Jaguars have just really fallen off the edge of the earth, if you're a flat earth believer. And they just can't get anything going. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they go down in the fourth quarter, 17-12. They fail on a 2-point conversion. They get 2 field goals to get them within 6 points, but they just can't do it. Zach Ertz comes back, scores a touchdown, and it's the Eagles seem like maybe they're starting to get it together a little more, especially offensively. Even though Wentz had his trouble early in this game, so you got to wonder what happens in Jacksonville. I think that might be they might be active at the trade deadline and not acquiring players, but instead maybe shipping some off.
Are also trying to acquire a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one franchise that would take Eli Manning. That's the one franchise that really wants him. Yeah, they really do, just because I was going to say he's not going to hurt you, but he hurt the Giants today. Okay, so forget about that theory. Jacksonville's rushing game today, right? Why would you even acquire Carlos Hyde when you give him just 6 carries today? So recently acquired, just 6 carries for 11 yards. I really don't understand that. Their game plan today, that's what blew it, I think, for Jacksonville in the contest. The Jags' leading rusher today, Blake Bortles, 8 carries 43 yards.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and Dede Westbrook with the only receiving touchdown of the game. Bortles today, a little bit better, 24-41, 286. I saw a number of passes, though. Literally, we're going like end over end. I mean, the guy doesn't even have a spiral. He doesn't seem to have a touch. I seriously thought, I was watching the game early this morning, and I said to one of my friends, I'm talking on the phone, oh, wow, he just overthrew that pass. And the thing just was like so lopsided, the football, that his tight end made the reception. Well, it's just really bad that he's not consistent whatsoever.
Well, and I watch a lot on Saturdays. My third grader plays flag football, and the passes resemble the passes I see because the kids can't get their hand around the ball, so it just likes to tumble. But I got to disagree with you. I don't think they should trade for a quarterback. I think they're gonna go in the tank here, not on purpose. I think they're just falling apart, and so they're gonna be in the top 5 or 6 of the draft, where you could probably get one of the quarterbacks, whether it's Herbert out of Oregon, even though he's saying he's going to stay, he'll come out because he might be the number 1 overall pick.
And off of his worst game ever, if he was trying to showcase his talents at Arizona last night, it was an absolute bust.
Yes. But I do think, though, that if I was the Jacksonville Jaguars, why go get a quarterback whose best days are behind him unless it's just for ticket sales and you're going to get him on the cheap or something like that? Because to me, I'd rather go get that young guy and develop him because you're going to have to reset that whole team anyway.
The Jaguars now reeling, as you said, at 3-5, and they have now lost 4 straight games and going in the opposite direction. This was a big game because you leave London and you go on your bye week, and you have time to recover. If you have a loss coming off of that game in London, it's really difficult to rebound. But we did see some good activity and some good games today, and excellent play from teams that I want to talk about this for a moment. Teams that were on their bye week,
right? Like
the Packers, and even the Raiders came out with a much fresher look today.
They did,
especially the offensive line. I thought showed the most improvement, I think, from a couple of weeks ago.
Well, and that's what you want, right? You want to see a team who's struggling, come out and come off a bye week and show something new, show that they've used the time wisely from a coaching perspective, from a player perspective, to get healthy, everything else. And so you saw that. You saw that with Oakland, no doubt about it, even though the result didn't end up the way they wanted it to. You saw it in Los Angeles. If the Rams hold on here, it doesn't matter. The Packers still came out, played the best defensive effort they've played, and still the Rams are going to score next to 30 points. It tells you how good the Rams are. But the Packers really played well all the way around. And so when you see that, it just reminds me, being a college basketball fan too, Tony, reminds me of a team coming off a timeout with a great play that's able to score a big bucket. And it's nice to see these teams getting ready for the stretch here as we go down to the second half of the season.
In other action today, let's talk about the Panthers and Baltimore. So Carolina defeats the Ravens 36-21 in a game that really was not that close. Cam Newton today destroying the league's top-rated defense. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for another. Chris McCaffrey had a couple of touchdowns. We were watching that game in here, and McCaffrey on one play bounces off of a defender, runs for a touchdown, and then his second touchdown, it was a pass that was tipped first by an offensive player, then by Eric Weddle, and then guess who comes up with the football? Chris McCaffrey.
And by the way, the era of defensive teams winning championships is over. It's not about defenses. You have to have an okay defense. Okay?
Are you talking the NBA or?
That's a good one. I love it.
For
but
sure.
But you talk about Baltimore, and yes, I lost money on this game. I had a nice little parlay, and I lost it because of Baltimore. But it goes to show you, though, that in today's NFL, with the rules and everything that they have in place now, a good offense. I really thought Cam Newton would do okay, but I thought he would struggle against that defense. I really thought that they could contain him enough to squeak it out, but clearly I was wrong. Cam Newton was an animal today. He was awesome. I love his game, and he really showed off every little bit of his talent today.
And you know what the Panthers do well? They win at home.
Oh, yeah.
They utilize the home field advantage, and they've now won 9 straight at home. DJ Moore, 129 receiving yards. The Panthers, at the end of the first half, they got a Graham Gano 54-yard field goal. And the way that they got that field goal, they put in a backup quarterback, okay? So Cam Newton had a banged-up shoulder, and everyone knew this, including, of course, Baltimore. And so they put in the backup quarterback, Taylor Heineke, and it appears as though he's going to throw a Hail Mary. But what does he do instead? He just throws a little out pattern to Greg Olson. They set it up. Graham Gano comes on, boots the 54-yarder. And I'll tell you one thing about this Panthers offense. It's a misdirection offense that really keeps the defense, at bay.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps them way off balance. And I'm surprised that no other teams are really playing this much misdirection.
No, I know. And if you think about the numbers too, Tony, the Panthers rolled up 386 yards against that Ravens defense, who had been giving up an average low of a league average low of 280. So they ran up 100 more yards on the Ravens than they're used to doing. So amazing job for them and for Cam Newton.
The Rams are about to close out the Cheeseheads. Stay tuned. We'll have the final score when we return. You're listening to the PG on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
CBS Sports Radio. The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
Welcome back to the show, and the 2 afternoon games have now gone final.
They have. It was Birmingham 3. No, I'm just kidding.
Birmingham.
The Los Angeles Rams remain undefeated.
Anaheim.
Of Anaheim.
LA Rams.
El Toro. Oh, that's a Charger. Sorry.
Oh, that's a Charger.
Yes, and Larry Zonka is getting nervous. The Rams move to 8-0, 29-27.
They're halfway there.
They're halfway there. 29-27 over the Green Bay Packers. And how about this? The young man, Josh Rosen, who I happen to be a big fan of, he takes the Cardinals back from the precipice of another loss. They win 18-15 against the San Francisco 49ers at home. So there you go.
Raiders-Niners coming up on Thursday night, the big game.
Battle of the one-win teams.
Battle of the Bay.
Battle of the Bad Bay.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We were talking about the Panthers in Baltimore, and Joe Flacco, his line today, 22-39, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. But I really wanted to talk about the way that they utilize Lamar Jackson. I think that they're doing a good job kind of trickling him into the offense. He's a good change of pace guy. He's a slash type of a player, right? Yeah. And today, throwing the football, because he ran for a first down, which we saw, and he's just there's no way you're going to stop that. He's very quick, very fast, very athletic. But today, he pulled it back, and he threw a touchdown pass. He was 4 out of 5, 46 yards. The touchdown to Hayden Hurst, a 26-yarder late in the game. So I think that they're trying to start to move in the direction in case Flacco, he's a free agent, right?
No.
He will be at the end of the year or no?
He's but they can release him.
They can release him and get him out.
Small cap, yeah.
Right, okay,
yeah.
small cap. But so Lamar Jackson is a guy that I think they're starting to give him more reps in game action so that they can prepare him for the future if something happens with Flacco and if they decide to make a change.
Well, and he is the future of the Baltimore Ravens. I like the kid a lot. I think him, Deshaun Jackson, Cam Newton, these guys are that second generation of really athletic quarterbacks who can run, yes, but because of the offenses that they played in college, they have to throw the ball too. The West Coast offense spreads it out. Yes, you can run, but you also have to throw the ball. You have to be accurate, and all three of those guys are accurate. And I really like his upside and what he's going to do. I like the approach they're taking too. They have Flacco there, and they're putting him into the game at different times, giving him opportunities to see different looks. And instead of rushing him, they're giving him the time because they got another quarterback anyway, and so it's able to do it. Now, we'll see what happens if the Ravens don't play as well as they should. If they don't get to a spot where they might be a playoff team, then I think you might see him a little more.
One local product here from Las Vegas, Ronnie Stanley, taken off the field today with injury for Baltimore. We hope that he's okay. And, the Panthers, what brought them back against the Eagles a week ago when they were trailing 17-0 was this fast-tempo, no-huddle offense. And really, I guess Cam Newton and the team offensively were saying that they really would like to play no-huddle almost exclusively.
Right.
But Ron Rivera says that it's situational only. But when they're in the no-huddle, obviously, they're very good, and Cam Newton's very athletic, and he's really improved, I think, with his decision-making. He's done very well. And last week, he had the 3 touchdowns in the final 11 minutes of the game. He was 8 out of 8 in no-huddle on the winning drive.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really come on. I think he's really matured, not off the field maybe, but he's really matured as a quarterback in this league.
And his wardrobe is still crazy.
It's still crazy.
But I will tell you that I think that Ron Rivera's right. And I think, though, that Ron Rivera is doing him a bigger favor than he realizes, and that is the Carolina Panthers have really done a good job of balancing out their offense, Tony. If you look at today's game, 33 rushes, 29 passes, right? So they're balancing it out well. They're getting enough production on a rushing perspective. Now, of course, Cam Newton was the leading rusher today with 52 yards, but McCaffrey's in the game. Then you had Moore, who had a nice game receiving and from a rushing perspective. So I like where this team's going. I think they have a real good chance to turn it on here and really go up into the upper echelon. We'll see what happens. I think if they can remain consistent, then look out. It's not a team I would want to play in the playoffs.
So the final score, the Rams defeat the Packers 29-27. In case you missed it, that score is just in. And it was a couple of fourth-quarter field goals for the Rams that gave them the victory here today. As Scott had mentioned, now at 8-0. And Greg Zuerlein made a 34-yard field goal with 2:09 left. And earlier in the fourth quarter, a 43-yard field goal. But, you know, this was one of the games, too, that builds experience and character, I think, and winning in a hostile environment, even though it's your home field. It was mostly fans of the Packers there today. I'd say 2/3 of the fans there. But, again, I think it's another step for this organization in building a team that potentially could win it all and could become a dynasty. I mean, they're that good, and they win these games, the close games, and to me that's a sign when they're not playing well. They were down 10-0 in the contest. They weren't playing well. They had a battle back from behind most of the day, right?
That's right.
But a sign of a good team is pulling out the victory and getting that big W, especially, you know, in a game that's going to be as intense as it was today.
Yeah, big game for both. I mean, the NFC and for the Packers, they were really motivated because that's the kind of game that really gets your season on a trajectory towards a nice playoff run. If you can go out to LA, beat the undefeated Rams and take that away from them, and they really showed it. They went out and they played really hard. The Rams, though, they have every little bit. Doesn't mean they're going to. Don't get me wrong when I say this, but they have every little thing that you want in a championship team. They've had two other games this season too that they didn't play extremely well, but they ended up winning. Including the first game of the season against the Raiders where they came back.
And the Niner game last week,
and the Niner
early
game.
on, I mean,
Right.
They struggled, and then they just put it all together. But they don't lose, they don't lose they don't lose their composure. They don't lose their cool, and they just continue to play and play well. And the Packers, I thought, were very dangerous in this situation today. They come off the bye week. They get healthy, as we mentioned. Aaron Rodgers was able to rest, and the tight end, Jimmy Graham, was back. He had a reception, a touchdown catch, right, I think, today. The cornerback, Jair Alexander, was back. Another receiver, Geronimo Allison, came back. Randall Cobb was back. Bashad Breeland, I think, played in his first game as a Packer following an offseason signing. So you had a lot of players today that got healthy, and healthy is good in the National Football League. It gives you some sort of an edge, right?
Absolutely.
A little bit more of an advantage. They were well-rested. Great game today. That's
Fantastic.
A playoff caliber game. Stay tuned. Our second hour is coming up on the PG Las Vegas right here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Where? It's the PG, your weekly go-to football post-game show in Las Vegas. The PG, scores, highlights, guests, and storylines from the Raiders and the NFL. It's your time to sound off and shout about the day's highs and lows. Call now, 702-889-5978. Here's Scott Goldbranson and your host, Tony Cordasco.
And the call-in number, 702-889-5978. We are exclusive on the radio.com app, and you can also catch us live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and Scott Goldbranson is here with a scoring update.
I would be welcome and happy to bring you that scoring update. Here we go from around the league on Week 8. That's right, folks. We are halfway through the NFL season, believe it or not. And here we go. The Rams just defeated the Green Bay Packers 29-27 to move to 8. No, it was the Cardinals 18, 49ers 15. The Raiders again lose. They moved to 1-6 after a 42-28 loss at home to the Indianapolis Colts. Steelers 33, the Browns 18. It was the New York Giants succumbing to the Washington Redskins 20-13. The Broncos lose in Kansas City to the Chiefs, who now moved to 7-1. That was 30-23. It was the Seahawks 28, Lions 14, Bengals 37. They survive Fitzmagic and win 37-34. 24-10, the Bears top the Jets. It was the Panthers clawing at the Ravens 36-21. And the Eagles in London take out the Jacksonville Jaguars by the score of 24-18. Coming up tonight, it is the Minnesota Vikings hosting one of the greatest quarterbacks, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. And now you're up to date. That's your PGLV scoreboard.
But no one calls Drew Brees GOAT. That's kind of it's really disappointing. I mean, he's one of the top quarterbacks of our time. He'll be an NFL Hall of Famer.
No doubt.
You can put him in the same category as all of the top QBs in the National Football League. And I don't think he gets his respect. But, yeah, that's going to be a rematch of the NFC Divisional Playoff game. 29-24, Minnesota wins. Remember, Stephon Diggs.
Oh, the miracle.
The final play of the game, the 61-yard catch from Case Keenum. Boy, how times have changed here in one season. But, yeah, Keenum was the quarterback, and him and Brees. It was really a contest there in that game. It was an aerial circus. They just threw the football, 40 pass attempts on each side of the ball. On each team, I should say, not each side of the ball. Defense doesn't throw the football 40 times.
No.
Drew Brees, 294 yards in that game, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Keenum had 318. He's not, of course, not in this game either. Kirk Cousins, we'll see what he could bring to this rivalry. And I think it's going to be another of those playoff caliber games.
I agree. And it'll be interesting. You have now the Saints are back at full strength with their two-headed monster in Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram in the backfield. So now Drew Brees, if I'm Drew Brees, I'm like, thank you. I can now throw all over you, but I also have 2 bruising running backs who are going to get me yards on the ground and open it up for me in the air. So it'll be interesting. And I think the Vikings are at the point now, Tony, where they got to show that they're real again, right? They really, a win tonight would, I think, put them into a place to say, look, we are a contender in the NFC. We are a contender to challenge the Rams. And the Saints are in the same position. Are they going to come out? They give up a lot of points, as we've talked about here many, many weeks. But can they do it enough to go on the road and win in Minnesota? If they do, it'll be a big, big statement for them in the NFC.
I know that, again, there's gambling, and it's something that everyone is aware of, and the point spreads and all that. And a little bit of, I don't know, what do you say, shadiness? I don't know, at the end of the Ram game. And again, we talked earlier about the point spread on that game, where it opened up that the Rams were -10, closed at around 7.5. It's
Right.
a lot of movement. And to move a point spread 3 points, that's a lot of money here in Las Vegas. And so we saw where the Rams were up by 2. And then on the ensuing kickoff, we saw the Packers. They turned the ball over. They fumbled the ball. 2 minutes to go in the game. And there was a pass, I think, or a run to Gurley, because we were just looking up at the screen. He gets tackled, but nonchalantly down at about the 2-yard line. and then the final play of the game, they just run it out, take a knee, and that was it. And so, Gurley probably, if this were, a game that had not been decided yet, he lowers the shoulder and he moves that guy, the defender, whoever it was on the screen, a couple of yards. And this is the way that I saw it unfold. And I don't know if you saw that there at home, but really, this is what they talk about, the integrity of the game.
Yeah.
And it's not fixed, but boy, it just comes, it works out that way. A touchdown and the extra point, that would have been 9, and it would have been right in the middle, and it might have been good for the books. Here, the books lose their shirts.
Yeah, exactly. So that is a good point. I think the whole idea of integrity is
not listening to the PG.
That's right. So
that's integrity.
The thing about it is, I've been dismissive of people who say, "Oh, it's going to be a big deal, and we got to protect the integrity of the game." You do, but let's face it, gambling's been happening forever. It's just going to be more out in the open now. And for me, I would say that games like this where you see this happen definitely are a concern. But at the same time, if I'm Todd McVay and I run the ball and I fumble and they return it 90 yards for a touchdown and I lose, why did I do that? See, now, but it was a run. He ran the ball. He was going to run the ball, and then he just came up short on purpose. We saw this happen in college. Air Force at UNLV this year, same thing happened. Had Air Force scored, Air Force would have covered, and I would have won my parlay as well.
The Chiefs today, Chiefs and the Broncos, and that Kansas City Chief team just keeps steamrolling. They've really owned the AFC West over the past 21 games. They've won 19 of those contests. And today the dominance continues, and so too did the dominance of one Patrick Mahomes, who threw for 4 touchdowns and 303 yards. Yeah. He just keeps rolling. He's the fastest player ever to reach the 25 touchdown mark in NFL history. It took him just 9 games to throw for 25 touchdowns. That's a career for some players.
Yes. And for Blake Bortles, it might be a whole career, yes.
That
Absolutely.
would be 2 seasons at least, 25 touchdowns.
But I will tell you, I lived in Kansas City for 4 years, grew up a Charger fan until I finally gave up on them. And so I don't like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? There's not a team that I usually root for. But as you and I were talking about this afternoon, they are just so much dang fun to watch that it's hard not to watch them and root for them.
Yeah, I'm a fan of good teams.
Good football.
Teams that, good football, teams that execute very well. The Rams, this season, obviously, and I really like the Chiefs a lot.
Yeah.
Just the way that they're playing the game.
And the main reason I like them probably the most, Tony, is I think they're at the point now where they can beat the Patriots, right? And
yeah.
I think most of us would agree.
There's no doubt
that the Patriots need to be beaten.
I think that I think this is the year for them to lose. I think this is the year for. Yeah, I think it is. The
end is near.
The end is near. And you have a team now that's a one-loss team in the Chiefs.
Yep.
And how much longer is this going to continue? Where New England just find a way to win, right? Even though their defense is not good, it's shoddy. Their offense might not be clicking on all cylinders. They have a lot of injuries at times and what have you. The offensive line is not the best, but yet they find a way to win. And right now, I think what you're looking at is a Chief team that is playing well and is finding a way to win. Like the Rams find a way to win. At the end of games, they can close out opponents. The Chiefs are doing the same. A lot of folks thought, including myself, I was just a little bit concerned about a midseason slump.
No, I was too, and hey, it still could happen, right? We don't know for sure. It doesn't look
that's right,
like
because it is midseason.
It is midseason. But I will tell you this, that they continue, despite deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City, they continue to do enough on offense. And let's face it, I don't care if they lack talent on defense. With what they have, they get the most out of. So you got to give Andy Reid. I've never been a big Andy Reid fan. The biggest thing about Andy Reid that I'm a fan of is the meme of him holding his play chart that is actually somebody swapped out in Photoshop as a Waffle House menu. I think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. But anyway, I just think that they
Next to the Derek Carr crying meme?
Yeah.
That's going to be the new Jordan meme, by the way.
I think that they are poised, and boy, I would like to see them make a trade here at the deadline to bolster that defensive backfield.
Yeah, and so we've been really impressed with the offensive line of the Chiefs. And you and I today were talking about another facet of the game that impresses us, and that is sustaining drives.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. They go on long drives. They keep the ball out of the other team. So when your defense isn't great, what's your plan? Your plan is to make sure the offense gets the ball as few times as possible. And that's what the Chiefs do. And I'm just, Pat Mahomes, I don't think you can give him enough credit. He's so calm. He keeps the ball going. He extends plays. He finds receivers. Today, he threaded the needle on a couple throws that were just unbelievable.
There's absolutely no window there.
No, none.
And he creates, I don't know how he gets the passes in there. And it's not like he just does it once. And, he does this consistently where it's just his timing. He knows his receivers now very well, especially Travis Kelce is, I think, one of his favorite targets.
Yeah.
But because he has such a good tight end, he can open it up. They have a good rushing game. We'll talk more about the Chiefs. I'd like to discuss a little bit more about what they're doing and what's made them so successful here at the halfway point of the season. Stay tuned, the PG. Much more on the way. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
CBS Sports Radio. The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
And yes, we have turned up the lights because Vegas is the city of lights, and the lights come to life at night. And it's good, actually, it's really a nice environment for selfies in here. Yes. It's all about the lighting. So the Broncos, right, so they have now lost 7 straight to the rival Chiefs. Case Keenum today, 23 out of 34, a couple of touchdowns and an interception. And Patrick Lindsay, who's really been one of the surprise running backs of this season, 18 carries, 95 yards in the game, and 1 touchdown as well. And also, we talked about, you and I were watching the game, and I think one of the best touchdowns of the day, one of our favorites, was Kareem Hunt as he hurdles Will Parks. And earlier in the game, Parks met Hunt head-on at the 1-yard line to keep him out of the end zone. And so Hunt now a little payback. He jumps over Will Parks, right, on a 4th down. It was a 4th and 1. On a 4th and 1, this team has guts enough to throw. Not only it was a shovel pass, yes, but there was so much traffic. It was all clogged up right on the inside, on the line. Like, I don't even know how, number one, the shovel pass got to Kareem Hunt without disruption, and then number two, how Kareem Hunt makes the catch and then negotiates himself through traffic, hurdles over one Will Parks, and it's not one Will Parks, but I keep saying that.
Sounds like a
that.
street.
Yeah, so it's over Will Parks, and then he also drags the safety, Justin Simmons, into the end zone. And then going to break right after that, what do they play? They play that video game music on the outro.
Tecmo Bowl, yeah.
Was it Tecmo Bowl?
Yeah.
Going into the commercial break. That was like phenomenal football. It does not get better than that.
There's a few times a day when we're in here preparing for the show, because we're here all day watching football games
and eating pizza
and chicken fingers.
But
we scream. We're like, whoa, what's going on with this? Whoa.
Or we're both watching it out. Did you see this?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. We're watching like 10 games at once.
And that was one of those plays. And to me, what was remarkable about it, too, I think one of the announcers on the television broadcast said he looked like Edwin Moses, doing doing the long jump.
Uh-huh.
And it was unbelievable. And again, this team, when things are rolling, man, they just roll. I don't care what you do in life. Everybody gets on a roll on certain things. And the Chiefs are just doing that. They're doing it running, passing, catching, playing defense, you name it.
And this Denver team, I think, has played well enough to win some games. They obviously came out with a different demeanor, starting with the Cardinal game. They were in the game today against Kansas City, but then they faltered at the end. Brandon McManus, he missed his first field goal of the season. It was a 55-yard field goal attempt. It was his first miss in 12 tries. If you remember back, the teams met earlier this month. The Chiefs had to rally back from 10 points down. They were down 23-13. They wind up winning the game. What I thought was one of the major adjustments, though, Scott, in today's game compared to the first game was, remember, Mahomes, he had 192 yards passing outside of the pocket.
Yep.
And they pretty much today kept him contained in the pocket. And I think that was part of the game plan for the Chiefs. It's not that Denver did anything to maybe keep him inside the pocket, but he was a pure pocket passer today, did not have to do the rollouts, and there was no design to get him outside of the pocket. But, again, that's a good adjustment for the Chiefs, because I'm almost positive that Denver had to prepare for the rollouts of Pat Mahomes.
Correct. And pressuring him to stay inside, and some of the pressure that the defense of Denver got on Pat Mahomes led to a turnover, led to an interception. That was the only kind of mistake Mahomes made today. But instead of him maybe passing for 400, he passed for 300. So they did contain him, though. They gave themselves a better chance.
He didn't throw any passes with his left hand.
No, he did not today.
And a shovel pass should not be a pass.
Or his foot.
A shovel pass or...
No, it should be a pitch.
They should have a different...
No,
I think it's a run.
Yeah.
I think I categorize it as a run.
Yeah.
And some, quarterbacks will just throw a little pitch, up the middle.
Yeah.
Like that, a little shovel pass, and somebody will take it 80 yards. and they add that to the passing stats.
But because it's forward versus reverse.
Yeah, but there's got to be some way.
On the option when you pitch the ball.
Right. So I saw a jet sweep, right? So they run a jet sweep, one of the teams, and it looked like a handoff. Instead of a handoff, the quarterback just pitches it forward. Okay, you'll toss it forward. And that's a pass.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a pass.
Not be a
no,
pass.
No, that should be a run.
As a tipped ball from a wide receiver should not be an interception counted against the quarterback. They should have team interceptions.
I think you're going too far there. Hey, and one other thing, though, about the Broncos, though, was Chad Kelly this week. Oh. Not many people are talking about that situation. Here was a guy that was drafted last out of the University of Mississippi, a Rebel, and gets a chance. He was Mr. Irrelevant, and then he gets a chance to be relevant. Now he's irrelevant again. He's got a lot of demons. So he shows up at someone's house, trespasses, goes into someone's house, gets beaten with a vacuum rod or something, one of those attachments, I think, and that hurts. That hurts, by the way.
Reminds me of my freshman year in college.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's an amazing deal. And then he gets arrested, and he went to a party before that, a team function, and I hope that kid could get his life straight because he's very talented. I thought that there would be a place for him in the league. I wanted the Jets, because I'm a Jet fan, I wanted the Jets to draft him, actually.
I think he'll get another chance. It might not be till next training camp, and he's not going to make very much money because everybody's going to want him to prove himself.
And he has to probably go to rehab, to come back and do the PR thing. He's had more than one incident. And it's a shame because he's a really good quarterback. I think he's gifted. But along with that, and it's Jim Kelly's nephew? Yeah. So, I just think he's so talented. And I hate to see all that talent go to waste.
Oh, yeah. It's always terrible to see potential go to waste. But I respect John Elway and the Broncos for pulling a trigger. It's not always easy to do. I'm sure if it was a more highly paid, if it was Case Keenum, for example, it might not be a release. It might be something else. But you got to respect that in today's NFL, where there's still players who get in a lot of trouble occasionally, that the Denver Broncos stood up and said, you know what, we're done. We're not going to tolerate this activity.
The Steelers defeated the Browns today 33-18. Ben Roethlisberger, a couple of touchdowns to Antonio Brown, one from 43 yards, one from 1 yard out. The second one with 8 seconds to go in the first half. And James Conner, 146 yards rushing. He had 63 out of 75 yards on the ground on a Steelers touchdown drive. And he caps it off with a 12-yard touchdown run. He's been nothing short of amazing. Conner has amassed more than 400 total yards in 2 games against the Browns this season.
Yeah, and it hasn't motivated Le'Veon Bell to come back early. But we all know why that is, because if he comes back after this week, then he can't be traded. So I get it. But, yeah, I mean, what a great story. And the Steelers, they started slow in this game. They had mistakes, but they've now won 15 straight over the Browns at home, by the way. And I'll tell you what, in the first half, there's just key plays that happen in games. With the Steelers, I think in that first half, Roethlisberger gets his second touchdown pass of the day with like 8 seconds left in the first half, and that really set him, getting them up 14-6, and past that, it was over.
Yeah, and on one of those, so the long touchdown pass to Antonio Brown, and this is the one thing about Roethlisberger that I constantly say, if the guy, he'll pump fake 30 yards downfield. He's still pump faking.
Yeah.
And people are still falling for it. Well, today, guess what happened? A rookie. Oh, man. This was tough for this kid. Denzel Ward on the touchdown pass to Brown, the long one, 43 yards. Here's Roethlisberger, pocket collapsing. He just moves a little bit over to the left. He does the pump fake, and then he just throws it right over his head.
Yeah.
He froze. Denzel Ward just froze.
He froze. And by the way, that touchdown pass to Brown moved Roethlisberger past Hall of Famer Fran Tarkington on the career list for touchdowns, 342. Eli Manning, you'll talk about him in a minute, 346 is seventh. Peyton Manning holds the record with 539. He's got 200 more to go.
One player that should have been a Raider. You like this? You like this intro?
I do.
Ryan Switzer.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree 100%.
Well, yeah, because he makes bonehead plays like he did today. So today, following a safety, he allows a free kick to roll. He doesn't pick it up.
God.
And, of course, it was recovered by the Browns, and then the Browns cashed in after that.
Right. But the
Yeah,
Browns are the Browns. So.
Okay, the Browns are the Browns, but Hugh Jackson still employed? I can't believe this. Or are they going to wait one more day because Ty Lue was fired by the Cavaliers today? That'll be the front page news. So I think they're going to wait at least one more day so that you got to get that splash out of it, right?
Who's the manager of the Indians? Is he next?
Yeah, he's next.
I mean, Hugh Jackson should have never had the job to begin with to go into this year. So the fact that they're going to do that. The question, though, is does Hugh Jackson fire Todd Haley first, try to hold on to his job, or do they fire him first and main Todd Haley, the head coach? I don't know.
Unbelievable. The Browns have not won in Pittsburgh since October the 5th of 2003, and right now they've lost 25 consecutive road games.
Wow.
How is this guy still employed? Stay tuned. The PG. More on the way. CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Sunday best. 702-889-5978.
Welcome back on the PG. So, Taysom Hill was in at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and we've seen Hill so far, right, Scott? He's lined up as a read option quarterback, as a running back, as a receiver, as a tight end, as a kick returner, special teams coverage specialist, and we just saw him throw the football. He heaved it downfield, and they got a PI out of it.
And after the game, he puts all the equipment in the truck.
He does?
And he flies the plane. He flies the plane.
He's the king of the hill.
He does everything.
That's him. So the Seahawks today. Boy, this team, when you say, they don't have much talent, they're not a very good team, they always surprise us, right? 28-14, they defeat the Lions today in Detroit. And really, it was Russell Wilson in the second quarter who throws 3 touchdowns. Wilson threw touchdown passes to Tyler Lockett, to David Moore, to Ed Dixon. And Chris Carson had 105 yards of Seattle's 176 yards.
Hey now, Johnny Carson. Sorry.
They ran the ball 42 times
42 times.
Yeah.
And you talked about Russell Wilson. In that second quarter, he was 14-17, 248. He had a perfect quarterback rating in the second quarter, right? So I just love the guy. I think anytime you have Russell Wilson, because the Seahawks going into the season, I picked them to make the playoffs, believe it or not. I thought they could sneak in and get a wild card based on some of the talent they have. They had question marks, offensive line. Of course, the defense, they have a lot of question marks. But they can put it together. When Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson, they have a shot. Doesn't matter who they play.
And we saw where, Matthew Stafford and the Lions tried to come back late in the game. They moved the football. Justin Coleman had an interception at the 1-yard line late in the game. And Stafford also fumbled the football to foil a comeback bid on the day. And so they had opportunities. I think Detroit did. But, man, what happened to the ground game? That's the thing. It's not consistent whatsoever. No. Only 34 rushing yards today. And Kerryon Johnson has 2 100-yard rushing efforts this season. Nowhere to be found today. No,
we talked to Darryl Ryder back a few weeks ago in the preseason about the Lions, and he had told us
from
that
The
was,
Athletic?
Yes. He told us.
Because every guest.
Because they're such a good publication.
No, they're great.
But anyway, but he talked about the Lions' inability to find that runner, and they really thought with some of the players coming in this year they could do it. And again, though, I swear, every time I watch a Lions game, turnovers are just, they're death for this team. Today, you saw it early in the game when Amir Abdullah fumbled a kickoff.
And that was in the second quarter,
that was in the second
when everything
quarter.
started to fall apart.
Right. And this team, they have so much talent in spots, but they just seem unable to put it together. Now, first-year head coach Matt Patricia, I think you got to wait till next year and see what happens. But still, they've improved on the offensive line, but they just don't seem to be able to run the ball enough. So I think they maybe have to address that a little more as they move on.
Best touchdown celebration on the day, Tyler Lockett.
Yes.
The hit by pitch.
I love that.
So what? Lockett throws. They have 2 players. One is a batter, one is a catcher, and Lockett is the pitcher.
Right.
And he hits the batter, whoever that was. I don't know who played that role. And then they charged the mound, and that was it, high-fiving each other.
He clotheslined him as he charged the mound, and he fell to the ground.
Okay.
And what I love about it was not just that it was funny,
right.
Okay,
but
that it's timely.
It's timely.
It's the World Series.
That's awesome.
Like, these guys know how to market themselves.
That was, you know what?
They knew they were going to be on SportsCenter.
It was really well thought out.
Yes.
And it doesn't happen if there's no touchdown, though.
No, of course.
So did they choreograph that, too? And did you see how the Seahawks sealed this game? So their punter was going to run out of the end zone for a safety. That's Michael Dixon. But everyone peels back, and so Dixon runs 9 yards. They needed 8 for a first down. It was a 3rd and 8. He runs 9 yards and picks up the final first down.
Yes.
And they run out the clock.
Not only is he...
The day of the fake punt.
Right. And not only is he the best young punter in the NFL, Michael Dixon, who's an Aussie, by the way, is from Australia, but he's a smart kid. He knew exactly what to do. A lot of punters in that situation, I don't know that they would have done the same thing. But he was smart enough, and he's a football player. It's good to see a kicker who's actually a football player, too, and was able to run it. If you haven't seen that highlight, check it out because it was really good, along with some of the fake punts we saw today as well.
Did Thielen just have another reception? I mean, every time you look up on the screen in this game, you'll see a Thielen reception for Minnesota.
It's like he's a wedding hall. It's just reception after reception after reception.
He does a lot of receptions.
Yes.
Yeah. So Detroit now, they've beaten New England. They've beaten Miami. They knocked off Green Bay. They really rallied back. And then today was one of the games where they could have turned the corner, and they didn't do very well. And what was disappointing to me, the fact that they didn't even try to run the football. Seattle came into today's game. Guess what? They were ranked 24th against the run.
Yeah, I don't understand. Hey, we're not head coaches in the NFL. We don't make the money.
We just play them on TV.
We just play them on TV. That's right. But I don't understand why you don't do it. And if you just, I have to guess there's no confidence. If you don't have confidence in your running game, then
but
you're
you
just
should,
not going to do
because
it.
Kerryon Johnson has done well.
I think he's a
Amir
good back.
Abdullah's back, and I think you can shuffle him into the lineup.
Absolutely.
And he's one of those guys that just is quick to the hole.
Yeah, and I think Kerryon Johnson, he's a rookie. You need to know what he's made of, and you can't do that by giving the kid 8 carries. I mean, what they have, 13 carries on the entire day.
Against the 24th rated run defense.
And that counts one quarterback.
This is the game plan. It's not very good.
No, it's terrible.
It's obviously not very good if that's what you're doing.
And we talked about earlier with the Carolina Panthers and the balance they had, right, for Cam Newton, where they had a balance of run and pass. Here's the opposite of that, which is you have absolutely no balance. So guess what? The Seattle defense, which is not very good, as you mentioned, can sit back. They know exactly what you're going to do. I mean, there's no surprise whatsoever, and there's no keeping them accountable to the run. Because if you only run the ball 13 times, 12 really, because one was a quarterback sweep out, then what are you going to do? It's utterly ridiculous that a head coach would do that.
It really was like a bend but don't break scheme for Seattle today.
Yeah.
And they just kept really everything in front of them. And, the Lions, even towards the end, when they drove the field and they had the 1 yard, the interception at the 1 yard line, even at that point of the game, you still felt that, Seattle knew what they were doing defensively.
Yeah.
Like they just let them come right at them, and they knew, okay, they're just going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
They surprised them with the run, so be it.
Yeah.
Beat us with the run. But, that really made no sense at all that, the playbook today did not include a heavy dose of running plays. Hey, the Bengals defeated the Bucs today, 37-34. To me, this was the best game of the day, not named the Rams versus Packers. So the Bucs were left for dead. And Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, rallies Tampa Bay back. He had a couple of late touchdown passes. The Buccaneers were down 21 points. We looked at one juncture. I think they were down 18 points. And next thing you know, boom, they're back in the game. And then Andy Dalton, he's done a lot on these last-minute late drives a team downfield in the latter stages on passes of 23 and of 9 yards to A.J. Green. Oh, this was such a stupid play. Ladarius Taylor playing in place of Quan Alexander after a Dalton to Green connection. A delay of game penalty. So they moved the football up 5 yards. Randy Bullock, 44-yard game-winning field goal. That was good. There was a penalty marker on the play for, remember?
Roughing the center.
Roughing the snapper, I thought they said. Did they say roughing the snapper?
Yeah, and I was like, where was their fish on the field?
Right,
where was
roughing
the red snapper? Like you're just abusing the fish
I
too
thought
much?
that might have been the funniest call I've ever heard.
I don't know.
Roughing
I think it has
snapper.
to do with the kick and when you jump on somebody.
Well, it's still the center.
Yeah,
I know.
It's
the center.
Snapper.
It's not a snapper.
No.
Well, he's snapping the football, but he's not. Is that – wait. Are they going to
it reminds me of the old
qualify all of the positions now? Is it politically correct to call them snappers instead of centers?
Just like stewardess versus flight attendant.
Oh my goodness!
But it reminds me of the old Dice Clay bit, right? Hey, snap ahead.
Yeah,
right.
Snapper.
But I'll tell you what, that you got to wonder, is Jameis Winston done for good? Because that Jesse Bates return of his 4th interception for a touchdown. That's what got him pulled out of the game, and then you get Fitzmagic back in there.
Fitzmattress.
Fitzmattress?
I think you said Fitzmattress.
No, Magic.
Okay, Well,
Magic.
You kind of fumbled that too. It was a penalty on the snapper right there. So
penalty.
Jameis Winston, right?
Yes.
The 4 interceptions today. Jameis Winston is tied for the league with 10 interceptions, but he's only played 4 games.
Unbelievable.
He's played just 4 games, and he's got 10 interceptions. So now do they go back to Fitzmagic mattress? Did they go back to him?
Only if he's clean.
Yeah, this is true.
No, but, How about this game? So you look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay leads the league in offense, right? Now, I'm not talking about scoring offense, but in overall offense. And they've allowed 30 points in 5 games. They changed their defensive coordinator last year. This is a team that, man, they can put it up. They can score. Doesn't matter who's in the game. They just can't stop anybody. But and here we go, another 3-week cycle of Fitzmagic.
Yeah, and
not Fitzmattress.
The Bengals today, man, like they ran into a wall. They had 3 4-and-outs on straight consecutive possessions. 3-and-outs, and that was it. And the Bucs had enabled them to get back in the game, but luckily, somehow the Bengals pulled this game out. The PG, you're listening to us here from Las Vegas on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
CBS Sports Radio.
The PG with Tony Cordasco and Scott Goldbranson on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, Las Vegas. Call now and rave about your team's Sunday stat line, 702-889-5978.
And we hope that you're not watching the WS, that you're tuned in to the PG. We like to shorten everything. It's the millennial way to go
The
about
WS.
business. The WS. We were talking about Tampa, right? And Deshaun Jackson with a long touchdown reception today. And it was a Jackson on Jackson crime as he defeats William Jackson on defense. And for Deshaun Jackson, it was his 24th touchdown of more than 60 yards. And that is the all-time best. It surpasses Jerry Rice.
Who?
Jerry Rice had 23 touchdown catches of 60 or more yards. That's phenomenal.
Rarefied air up there,
and here's another guy. I've got a question for you. Deshaun Jackson, Hall of Fame or not?
I have to say yes. If you look at it.
I mean, everyone goes today. You know what?
NFL.
Everyone's a Hall of Famer now.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame. Honestly, as much as I love the game, it's not great for being too selective. But it is a bigger game. You have bigger rosters, so I get it, versus baseball, which is a little smaller. Baseball is the hardest to get into, sometimes too hard and too ridiculous. But, yeah, I know. I think he is. If you look at his numbers and what he's done. Now, he's moved around a lot, obviously, Phillies, Tampa, so on. But I just think that if you look at the numbers, he's there. Absolutely.
I've got one word for you, blustery. How can a Southern California kid that plays in the heat and the sunshine of Southern Cal play in cold weather and wind? He cannot. Sam Darnold, case in
So what about Aaron Rodgers?
Case in point. Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. He played well in the heat today.
But he plays well in the cold, too.
That's right. But the Bears, 24-10, they beat the Jets today. What the Jets tried to do, because Darnold really struggled in the game against Minnesota a week ago in the cold. I mean, he looked like Olaf from Frozen. Yes. That's what I said before.
Let it go. Sorry.
So Darnold today and his teammates, they shortened the game with the rushing game. They run the ball 24 times. They throw 29. Darnold, 14 out of 29, 153, and a touchdown to Chris Herndon. And Mitch Trubisky, you could talk about his Halloween attire. He was 16 of 29, 220, 2 touchdowns, with 13 passes now in 4 games, and that is the most since one. I always say since one.
One.
Doesn't that sound more dramatic?
It does. I like
since
it.
One, Sid Luckman. Maybe there were 2 Sid Luckmans.
Sid Luckman,
I'm going to say since one.
I think I bought a car from Sid Luckman. But hey,
I
but
think
listen,
that was,
did you say
Sid Luckman Dodge?
Did you?
What was
did
it?
you say it was Plymouth?
It was
did
a
you
Plymouth.
say? Did you say there was Russian interference? Did you say they won with Russian interference later?
No.
Rushing.
Snapper.
Oh, rushing.
That was snapper interference.
Trubisky coming dressed as Ditka, though, was my highlight, even though he had a great game.
That was pretty good.
It was very good. But Trubisky, I've been a critic. I am no longer a critic. He's been, if he can sustain it today, I mean, 16 to 29, I think it was, 220 yards. Great game. And he's proving to be a good leader. If you look at him on the field and what he's able to do with this team, I like what they're doing. They still need some pieces, I think, the Bears to be more competitive. Khalil Mack was out, right?
Yeah, first time in his career that he was listed as inactive.
Right, and his top receiver, Allen Robinson, also out for the game.
Robinson was out, yeah. And the Jets were missing Bilal Powell, and they have no receivers. That receiving core is just so thin, and they had to try to do something. So you can't really blame them for trying to play keep away. And the Jets also had their longest drive of the season at more than 8 minutes.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, and you're going to get that with a young quarterback, I think, too. And the injuries, I don't care who you are, injuries will kill you. But also a nice showing by Jordan Howard, as you mentioned, 81 yards, right? I mean, I think that that running game for Chicago is a big deal. Tariq Cohen is, I think, a role player. I don't think he's the answer there, so they're looking for that. But
he had a big reception.
He did.
70
he
yards
did.
today?
70 yards, yeah.
70-yard touchdown.
And that's how I think you have to use him. You have to use him as a receiver out of the backfield and give Howard more of the carries.
We have a couple of more games here to recap on this busy day. And in the first quarter, Minnesota and New Orleans are tied up at 1. We'll get you updated on that score there. And the Redskins defeat the Giants 20-13. Big day for Adrian Peterson. AP caught a 7-yard touchdown pass from Alex Smith. He added a 70-yard touchdown run with 3:06 remaining to ice that game. And the winning Gruden, Jay, that was bad, now has a 1.5 game lead in the NFC East.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too. Adrian Peterson, the old guy, right? He's washed up. And after the injury to Darius Geis, their draft pick, the Redskins go out and get Adrian Peterson. Looks like a brilliant move now by Gruden. Season high 149 yards today, right? So he's doing it for him. The Redskins are 5-2. I know the division stinks, okay? But it doesn't matter. You're in the division you're in. And the Redskins, I think, are finding their way, too, defensively, finally. And that was their strength coming in anyway. People thought that the defense was going to be really good. And I think now, unless Dallas can find it, I think that the Redskins are going to win that division pretty well.
Eli Manning was sacked 7 times today, and DJ Swearinger with 2 interceptions. Mark Ioannidis had 2.5 sacks, and he also did the flossing dance. Is that the floss? That was pretty interesting there. I think, Pat Shurmur, I think, is going to be under some pressure and under fire in New York, not only because of the way that the Giants are performing on the field, but the way that he answers questions. The Giants, this past week, they sent Snacks Harrison, a 2-down player, to the Lions for a 5th rounder, and they also sent the Eli. Well, as soon as, who was it, Adam Schefter tweeted out, the Giants have traded Eli, and the whole world went nuts. Apple.
Yeah, Apple.
Traded to the New Orleans Saints. Is he in action tonight? Probably playing in tonight's game.
Well, and to me, I agree with you on Schumer. I think that they're in trouble, and I just don't understand. If they're going to trade Eli Manning, that's fine, but the Giants need everything. Like they're it's not like they're close, and they should hold on to Manning. So I think you get rid of him, but I just think that there's a lot going on there. And the organization itself, frankly, it goes above the coach. It goes up to the front office. Just terrible decision after decision.
Yeah, and we saw the Niner game. That was the late afternoon game, and the Cardinals came back and defeat the 49ers 18-15. And for most of the day, this was a 5-3 game. It was 5-3. But Byron Leftwich, is the new offensive coordinator, and things finally started to kick in there in the second half. So that's a nice W for the Cardinals late in the season. Josh Rosen starts the day. He starts it off with an intentional grounding in the end zone. Yeah, for a safety. It's like,
hey, nothing like starting off with a kick, right? It's like, hey, let's
exactly.
do it.
And, just one other note coming out of that game. San Francisco's Pierre Garçon, I think he's still injured, right?
Yes.
So he's drawing a lot of attention in the trade market. $6 million contract, very manageable. Garçon is injured with 21 catches, 230 yards, 7 games this season. We thank everyone for tuning in. It's been our pleasure to bring you the PG here from Las Vegas. We'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. And for Scott Gulbranson, for Tony Valdez, our engineer, I'm Tony Cordasco. So long from Las Vegas. You've been listening to the PG here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.